Hey, this is going to be a very quick discussion of solutions to the problems on the quiz. And these problems are not necessarily numbered the same way as you received them on the quiz. So if you got a problem wrong on the quiz, I would advise you to find that problem that you got wrong and then look for it as I'm going through these problems here. And then you'll hear the discussion on it. Really, I have nothing to say about these four problems. All the work is there. Very few people got those wrong. Pause the video and go back and look at those if you need some help. For number 5 here, because these lines are parallel, this acute and this obtuse angle must add up to 180 degrees. Few mistakes on this one here. A few people got number 7 wrong here. These vertical angles must be congruent. These two angles must add up to 180. And then finally, these 3 angles must add up to 180. So there's the 3 steps of solving that problem. Because of the congruent sides here, there must be congruent angles here. So subtract the 106 from 180 to get 74. Split that 74 between these 2 angles here. Moving on. This one caught a bunch of people. This equilateral triangle here must have 3 equal angles. So divide 180 by 3 to get 60. Okay, subtracting that 60 from 180 right there because of that straight line leaves 120 degrees, which must be split equally between these 3 m's. Why? Because they're all labeled m, which means they all have to be the same measure. So split that 120 by 3 or into 3 parts, you get the value for m. And number 10, once again, parallel line marks here mean that these 2 parallel lines, which are being connected or crossed by this 3rd line, the transversal, right? You remember that word? Creates a variety of angles, and all the acute angles are congruent and all the obtuse angles are congruent. So this 30-degree acute angle must be matched by this acute angle up here. Now we've got a triangle up at the top where we can subtract 30 and 40 from 180. Number 11, here's what I think is the easiest way to get started on this problem, is the red triangle that I've highlighted here. Because we've got 2 out of the 3 angles in that red triangle. And so we could subtract those 2 from 180 to find this angle in that red triangle. But then that 26-degree angle also belongs to the blue triangle. It's one of the 3, and this 41 is a second one. So if we subtract the 26 and the 41 from 180, we get that 3rd angle in the blue triangle. It's not the only way to get this problem. A lot of people found this angle here to be 54 degrees and then subtracted these 2 from 180 to get that angle. Then they got that angle, then they got that angle, and finally they got C. But that's just a bit longer route. Number 12 caught a bunch of people. Again, because of the parallel lines here. You see the arrows on these parallel lines. Here is a transversal connecting those 2 parallel lines, meaning that 75-degree acute angle must be matched by that acute angle, must also be 75 degrees. Now subtract the 75 and the 35 from 180 to find the measure of angle N, which is 70. N is 70. This would also be 70. Okay. 13. Subtract these 2 angles from 180 to get this 71-degree angle. There's a vertical angle partner. Now subtract these 2 from 180 to get M. The answer you had to give me for this question here, you had to write in the answer, and the only acceptable answer is 150. Well, I don't know. I think somebody typed in x plus y equals 150. I didn't need the x plus y equals, but okay, I gave you credit for that. 150 was all I needed. Okay. Number 15. Once again, let's start with the red triangle, the big red triangle. There are 2 whole angles given in that red triangle, the 39 and the 63. Subtract those from 180 to get 78 degrees for the remaining angle of the big red triangle, which is this angle here, angle IAU. Did I write E? Angle IAU, right? But 24 degrees out of that 78 is already there, so subtract that 24 from 78. There's 54 remaining inside that triangle. And then there's a 79-degree angle inside that blue triangle. So subtract the 79 and the 54 from 180 to get the angle that I asked for right there, which is 47 degrees. Moving on. Number 16. Here is, I would start with this isosceles triangle right here. Subtract the 48 from 180 to get 132. Split that in half to get these two 66-degree angles. And then over here in this, on the blue side, okay, once again, these two segments are marked congruent. So this is an isosceles triangle over here, which means that 46 must equal that 46. Subtract those from 180 to get 88 as the remaining angle in that blue triangle. And then the angle that I asked for, QBK, is this angle here. It's the sum of this 66 and 88 for a total of 154. Number 17, the only way to get started on number 17, really the only way to get started is to see this big red triangle that I've outlined, because there are two angles given in that big red triangle, 42 and 64. So subtract them from 180 and you get 74 degrees for the remaining angle of that big red triangle, which is this. Okay. Then you have to go back and see this information, that this segment, GB, bisects that 74-degree angle, dividing it into two equal pieces of 37 degrees each. And now, in this blue triangle, we have a 37-degree angle and a 42-degree angle. And if you add them and subtract from 180, you'll get the measure of the angle that I asked for. Again, not the only way to get to that 101-degree angle, but you absolutely had to start with that big red triangle. I think these last two problems here, are they? Yes, last two problems that I put on the quiz. Number 18. What you had to tell me for the first point on the Canvas quiz part was that 25x is equal to 30x minus 30. That got you the point on the quiz. You know, you could have had parentheses around those. You could even have parentheses around those. I gave credit for all of that. Parentheses weren't really necessary, but you had to tell me that those two angles were equal to each other. For the 2 points on the rest of solving that problem, you had to solve the equation to get 6, and you had to plug that 6 back in to here. 25 times 6 is 150, and that angle 1 is a vertical angle with that 150, so it must also be 150. And then for 19, you had to begin by summing all three of these angle measures here to a total of 180. And again, whether the parentheses were there or not, regardless of the order that you wrote these terms in, really didn't matter. As long as you were summing these three angle measures up to a total of 180, you got the point for that. And some people actually simplified the equation and typed this in. You didn't need to do that to get the point in the Canvas quiz part, but it was okay if you did. Solving that equation led to x equals 15, which earned you another point, and then plugging that 15 back in here, because this was the angle that I asked you for. 2 times 15 is 30, got you the final point for that problem.